Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another video. As always, I am so excited to have you guys here. And if you're new here, hello, welcome. My name's Claire. I'm a naturopathic doctor. And my goal for this channel is to help you guys feel as educated and empowered when it comes to your health as possible. So if that is something you're interested in, definitely click the subscribe button because we would love to have you here. And for today's video, I thought I'd take you guys along and just show you some of the habits that I do on a daily or weekly basis just to keep me both physically and mentally healthy. So we are starting off midday on Monday and I went to the gym to do a workout. I will usually do about 4 strength training sessions per week and they're usually about 30 to 45 minutes. I really enjoy strength training. I also do it for the benefit that muscle has on the body, specifically on your metabolic health, your bone health. It just has so many benefits, especially for women. And we just know that muscle itself is such a great thing for metabolic health in general. It creates more space for glycogen storage. It can help with taking up extra glucose after a meal, and it's been shown to help with cardiovascular health. And the dose we see in the research is about 150 minutes per week. So that can be 5 30-minute workouts or 4 40-minute workouts, somewhere around there. And then in addition to having lots of movement throughout the day. And I know that a lot of women are afraid to strength train. I know that a lot of my patients say that they're either afraid to get bulky or they're afraid that it is bad for their cortisol levels. And while cortisol does increase acutely during strength training, we see that it decreases after exercise. And when exercise is paired with adequate rest, nutrition, and stress management, this can actually help to support cortisol levels and a healthy stress response. And consistency in the gym is definitely something that I have struggled with over the years. And when I talk about it with my patients, a lot of the times we are talking about setting really realistic goals when it comes to exercise, planning out both what we are going to do for exercise and when we are going to do it, because if it's in your calendar, you are a lot more likely to do it. So for me personally, I know that I will work out Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays, and then I'll have active rest days on Wednesdays and Fridays. And having that really clear routine has just made it a lot more easy for me to stay consistent in the gym. So I came home and of course I made my favorite salad. You guys have seen me make this so many times, but for protein, I use chicken. For carbs, I use leftover sweet potato. It also has some avocado, parsley, sauerkraut, and some greens in there. And then for my dressing, I just use some olive oil and balsamic vinegar. It is just one of my favorite meals because it is a really easy way for me to get in protein, color, and fiber, which are the things that I really try and prioritize at my meals. And then after my lunch, I went for a little walk to the grocery store because I wanted to do some meal prep, but I always try and do some sort of movement after my meals. It's actually really great for blood sugar control and insulin sensitivity. Physical activity after meals stimulates the uptake of glucose by muscle cells, and it actually helps to contract the muscle and move the glucose transporter to the top of the cell. So post-meal movement is really something that I do with any of my patients where insulin sensitivity is a concern. I just got back from the grocery store and I thought I'd do a little grocery haul. I didn't get too much stuff because I had some leftovers in the fridge from the weekend that I want to use up. They were also out of some stuff that I wanted to get, but I'll run through everything that I picked up and then I'm going to do a little mini meal prep. So I'll show you guys everything that I make, but just starting off, here's everything that I grabbed from the grocery store. Starting out with produce, I grabbed a bunch of avocados. I grabbed a orange and a yellow bell pepper, and I still have half of a red bell pepper in the fridge. I grabbed a few zucchinis. I grabbed a few carrots as well. I got some sweet potatoes. I probably won't roast these up today though because I still have a bunch of sweet potatoes in the fridge. You guys have seen a bunch of times how I make those. I also grabbed some frozen veggies. I like to just have these on hand just in case I need something in a pinch. I grabbed 1 lemon. Also got a purple cabbage. I love purple cabbage. It is such a micronutrient dense food. It's incredibly affordable and it's great for your liver. So I grabbed that as well. That was everything. I also still have some spring mix and some mushrooms left over from the weekend. So that is the vegetable situation. And then for protein this week, I have a bunch of leftover chicken in the fridge, so I'll probably use that. And then I just picked up some eggs as well and some organic tofu. I was also going to grab some ground beef, but they were all out. So I'll have to pick that up later in the week. And then the only other thing that I got And then the only other thing that I got was some black beans in a can. I do try and make my beans from scratch, but especially with living alone, I just find that if I make up a big batch of beans, they just do not get eaten by the end of the week. So I just buy them usually in a can and I'll rinse them really well. And yeah, that's kind of the current situation. So I'm going to do not a big, but a pretty big meal prep right now and just get myself set up for the week. Whenever I prep my dishes, I like to just think about the composition of my meals. So I always want to have vegetables. I always want to have a protein, a carbohydrate, and then a healthy fat. Oh, that's the other thing I got. I also picked up a new bottle of olive oil. I always get asked what type of olive oil I use. This is the brand, the Terra olive oil. When you're looking for olive oil, you just want to make sure that it is a high quality olive oil, that olive oil is the only ingredient. You don't want anything else added. If you're using it for salads, then you want it to be extra virgin. And usually the high quality ones will have a date that it was pressed on. So you always want to look for that. And then you want it to be within 6 months so that it's fresh. And olive oil can oxidize with light. So I always look for mine in a dark bottle, and I like to do glass because fat can leach the microplastics as well. So I always look for one in a glass container. That is how I pick my olive oil. Back to the meal prep. So whenever I'm doing kind of a bigger meal prep, I'll usually just prep those different components of the meal. So today I think I'm gonna do some roasted veggies and we'll make some cabbage in the cast iron as well. And then for carbohydrates, I have some rice that I've been soaking overnight. I like to soak my rice. I just find that it digests a little bit easier. So I'll probably cook that with some bone broth and kombu. And then for other carbohydrates, I also have the black beans. And then I have a bunch of sweet potato left over in the fridge as well. But I will insert a clip of how I make my sweet potatoes. But you guys have seen me make it so many times. For protein, I'm just going to bake my tofu and soft boil my eggs. Like I said, I have chicken left over in the fridge. And then I'll probably pick up some ground beef tomorrow. But I always just kind of like to cook my ground beef fresh. I don't really like the texture of leftover ground beef. That's my veggie, carb, and protein for the week. And then for healthy fats, like I said, like I'll usually just add in some avocados into my meal or drizzle some olive oil on top. You guys know I also love tahini, so that's a really great fat source. If you want to go ahead and make some pre-made dressings, you can do that as well. I just don't tend to usually do that. That is kind of the plan. So I'll probably put on some music and get to meal prepping.
I don't know where I'm going. 2 days, one big commotion. I'm being carried by the wake.
So something that I'm trying to get better at is consistently cleaning my produce. I will do a combination of vinegar and baking powder and a little bit of filtered water. It helps to remove some of the pesticides, bacteria, dirt from the produce. I do my best to buy organic as much as I can. If I can't, I will usually go off of the Clean 15 Dirty Dozen list by the Environmental Working Group. That's a great resource for grains and soy. I always try and get those organic. Grains specifically, I try and get them glyphosate free, but with tofu, tempeh, any sort of soy product, I do really make an effort to buy that organic. And then I always season my tofu the same way. I use some low sodium tamari. I'll always add some garlic. I really try and add garlic to a lot of different things because garlic has so many health benefits because it is part of the allium family of vegetables. They're so great for your health. Those are things like leeks, onions, shallots. They also have antimicrobial effects, so they're really great for helping to support good gut health by preventing the overgrowth of bad bacteria. And I also add some maple syrup to my seasoning as well. And then you can let the tofu marinate overnight if you want it more flavorful. I'll usually let it marinate for about 10 to 15 minutes. So while I was doing my tofu, my vegetables were soaking, and then I gave them a really good rinse and then chopped them up. So whenever I'm making a big tray of roasted vegetables, I really just try and get as many different colors as I can. So here we have green, orange, red, and yellow, and then I'll usually just roast them for about 30 to 45 minutes. And this is really great because you can really switch up the vegetables each week, do whatever you have on hand. Sometimes I really like to do a mix with root vegetables, so things like carrots, parsnips, beets. What I try and do is just use vegetables that I know will cook at about the same rate. So I know that all the peppers and zucchini will cook about the same amount of time. If I'm doing something like root vegetables and squash, I know that those cook about the same time. That is just something you learn over time with cooking, kind of the cooking time for different vegetables, what vegetables go well together, and then what seasonings you like, what seasonings go well together with different vegetables. It's all just a giant experiment. And then I will usually roast my vegetables in avocado oil. I've talked about this before, but you can use olive oil up to about 400 degrees Celsius before it hits its smoke point. So you could use olive oil as well, depending on how hot your oven is. And then for seasoning, I just use garlic powder, parsley, and oregano. I think I also added some dill. You can switch it up, use whatever seasonings you like.
No way to change. Ah, yesterday. No way to change. Ah, yesterday.
And then I will just lay them out on a baking tray. I'll usually cook them for about 45 minutes and I'll toss them halfway through just to make sure that everything cooks evenly. And then at that point, my tofu had also been marinating for about 15 minutes, so I threw that in as well. And then I got started on my rice. So like I said, I soaked my rice overnight. I find that this digests a little better, and I really prefer the taste and texture of white rice, but if you wanted a higher fiber option, you could definitely use brown rice or quinoa. I added that to a pot along with some kombu. Kombu is a sea vegetable, and it is just a very nutrient dense vegetable. It's high in iodine, calcium, iron, magnesium, potassium, lots of vitamins. So it is just something that I really like to include. So I will just break it up and then let it absorb the liquid. So I'll usually add maybe a few extra tablespoons of liquid. Here I'm using some bone broth. You can definitely use homemade bone broth if you have it. I really like the Organica one because you can just dissolve it in water. And like any other starch, when it is cooled, rice turns into a resistant starch. And I know I talk about resistant starches so much, but they do just have so many benefits for gut health, for blood sugar control. So definitely something beneficial about meal prepping your rice. And speaking of gut health, we are moving on to one of my favorite vegetables, and that is purple cabbage. Cabbage is amazing for your gut health because it has so many of those prebiotic fibers. But one of the main reasons why I love cabbage is because it is so high in sulfur compounds, including sulforaphane. And these are found in a number of different vegetables, specifically highly in the cruciferous vegetables. So things like broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, bok choy, cauliflower, kale. Those are all cruciferous vegetables, and they have sulfur compounds, and these help to support the production of enzymes responsible for detoxification within the liver. Sulfur also plays a role in the synthesis of glutathione. I've talked about glutathione a few times on this channel, but it is a very potent antioxidant that is used up in the liver. And we see low glutathione levels are associated with a number of chronic diseases. And I also talk about this a lot, but the modern world just places a lot more stress on our liver, and glutathione plays a role in helping the body neutralize a lot of harmful substances like free radicals, heavy metals, and toxins that we are just more likely to be exposed to in the modern world. And the conversation of glutathione comes up so commonly in my clinical practice, especially when I'm discussing liver health with patients. And that is why sulfur-containing compounds can be so powerful in the diet. Another common question I get about cruciferous vegetables is, one, the digestibility. I find that a lot of times people have a hard time digesting cruciferous vegetables, and I always recommend cooking them. I will very rarely eat raw cabbage unless it's fermented within a sauerkraut. And I often get asked about the goitrogen compounds in cruciferous vegetables as well, and their impact on the thyroid. So cooking significantly decreases the goitrogen compounds, and the main concern with them is really that they reduce iodine uptake, and iodine deficiency is actually incredibly rare in North America. Unless you're eating large amounts of raw cruciferous vegetables, it's not really a concern. But if you have a specific thyroid condition and you are wondering about your diet specifically, that is something that you could ask your doctor about. Okay, so moving on, I always get asked how long I cook my eggs for. I always cook them for 8 minutes and then put them into some cold water, and then I'll just leave them overnight. I will usually just peel them in the morning, and then I will usually have them with some leftover sweet potato if I have some leftover veggies. This week I made some mushrooms over the weekend, so for breakfast I've been having eggs. I just smash them up and make kind of like a scramble, but without having to cook it in the morning, and I'll have that with some mushrooms, some sweet potatoes, and it's just a very easy, high fiber, high protein breakfast. Now at this point, my veggies were done. I really enjoyed these. These were so good. I'll definitely be remaking them. And by that point, my meal prep was done. So I have some carbs, protein, veggies all ready for the week. And I told you guys I would show you a clip of me making my sweet potato, even though you guys have seen me make this so often. But lately, the Whole Foods near my house has been out of purple sweet potatoes. So I've just been doing the plain white Japanese sweet potatoes. I'll usually cut these up. I'll season them with avocado oil, cinnamon, and salt, toss them, and then bake them in the oven for about 45 minutes. minutes, flipping them halfway through, and they are just my favorite carb to add to any meal. So that is how I prep my sweet potatoes. And for dinner, I just ended up throwing together a bunch of the stuff that I meal prepped. But before I had my dinner, I just had some bitters mixed in water. Bitters are incredible for helping to support gastric acid production, and I'm at a really good place with my digestion right now where all I'm doing is really just maintaining. But bitters are something that I love to use. Like I said, they help with gastric acid production, and that is really important for the activation of enzymes, for maintaining gastric pH, antimicrobial effects, and for nutrient absorption. And we actually see a lot of other cultures using bitter foods, bitter herbs, things like that at the beginning of their meals to help stimulate digestion. So that is just something I do just to give myself a little bit more support. But for dinner, I just made half of my plate up with the leftover veggies, rice, I used some tofu, I also cut up some avocado, and then I had some pickled red onions in the fridge. The recipe for these will be in my next video, so you guys can stay tuned for that. And then another thing that I did that really helped my digestion was eating in a calm and relaxed state and being present with my food. This is something that I definitely fall off track with sometimes, but I'm trying to become more consistent with being really present with my food, chewing my food really well. It is so important for your digestion. And then for dessert, I've been obsessed with peanut butter stuffed dates, so I had one of those. And then I thought I'd take you guys along for my evening routine. I like to keep my evening routine very simple. I find that it's something that I struggle with a lot more than my morning routine, probably because by the end of the day, we are just more tired, we have less willpower. So I like to keep it very simple, but lately I've just been cleaning up my apartment for about 5 or 10 minutes. I just like waking up to a cleaner apartment. I find it's a lot better for my mental health, my anxiety. It also keeps me off of my phone. And then I'll usually just wash my face, brush my teeth. Sometimes if I'm feeling like it, I'll do something like a gentle castor oil rub on my stomach, again, just to help support digestion and liver health. And then I always struggle with staying off my phones and staying off screens before bed, so I like to plug my phone in the kitchen and then leave it there, and then I'm a lot less tempted to look at it before bed. And I just ended up buying an alarm clock online so that I don't have to use the alarm on my phone. I'll usually open the window as well just to let some fresh air in. Sometimes on the weekends I have to close it because it gets too noisy. I'll turn my air filter to night mode, dim my lights, and then I will usually read my Kindle. I know that some people are still concerned about the blue light emitted by Kindle, but it's a lot lower than other screens, and I have just found that I am a lot less likely to look at my phone if I'm reading my Kindle. So that is something that I will usually do for about 30 minutes and then go to bed. On Tuesday, I had to be in the clinic pretty early, so I just woke up. First thing I do is I always try and make my bed, and then I wash my face. I did my tongue scraping. Tongue scraping can be great for helping to promote oral hygiene, and we know that the oral microbiome and the gut microbiome are closely connected. So I did that, and then I just sat and did some reading. I just finished The Big Leap. I loved it. I would highly recommend it as a book, and now I am rereading Burnout. So I read that for a little bit, then I did a quick meditation. Sometimes I can really struggle with meditation, so I will usually do a meditation app or something like that. And I really find that even just 5 or 10 minutes of mindfulness in the morning can really help with my nervous system throughout the day. And when I'm talking to patients about nervous system control, the goal is never for us not to be stressed out or activated or overstimulated throughout the day. The goal is to have a flexible nervous system where we have the awareness and the tools and the nervous system flexibility to move move ourselves from that stimulated sympathetic state into the parasympathetic state. And I really find that having some mindfulness practices, a meditation, some breath work in the morning can really help with that. And then I will also usually do some journaling, whether that is journaling about things that I really want to focus on throughout the day, whether it's word vomiting and just kind of writing everything down that's taking up a mental load in my brain. I just like to get it out all on paper. And then, like I said, I had to be in the clinic pretty early, so I just brought my breakfast and my coffee with me. I just brought some hard-boiled eggs, leftover mushrooms, and some sweet potato, and then I brought my supplements with me. This is my pill box. I love it because you can take out the day individually. And yeah, I just brought my coffee with me. Even when I take my food and my coffee with me to the office, I always make an effort to take a break, eat in a calm and relaxed state, and I try to wait to have my coffee until after I've had my breakfast. Sometimes in the morning, I'll go for a walk, but since I was walking to work, I kind of counted that as my morning walk.
No, the sun don't shine as bright when you aren't here with me.
Alright guys, I'm just on a little break from seeing patients in the clinic, but I thought that I'd show you guys a few of the books that we have in the clinic because I'm always getting asked for book recommendations. Most of the books that we have here are textbooks that we use for reference, but we do have some that we keep on hand because we recommend them to patients and then we can kind of show them the book. So a lot of them are baby childhood books, honestly, mostly baby books. I do also have a cookbook. After I show you all of these, I will insert some clips of just other book recommendations that I have, like spirituality, health. I'll put a clip of that in as well. Let's get started. So the first ones, these are all like baby or prenatal books, but one that I commonly recommend either to expecting mothers or if I have a pediatric patient, so like a baby or a toddler, I'll often recommend this one to the mother. It's Sprout Right. It's a great book on baby nutrition. I also love Dr. Viva Ram, the natural pregnancy book. That's really great as well. Or Ina May's Guide to Childbirth. I know that this is not like a pregnancy mom's channel. I don't have any kids. I'm not planning on becoming pregnant too soon, but I want to show those with you. And then I'm always getting asked about cookbooks that I recommend. I don't really use cookbooks. I don't really cook with recipes that often, but this is one that I do really enjoy. It's the Nutrient Dense Cookbook. It is an AIP cookbook. So if you're not familiar with AIP, it's basically the autoimmune protocol, a modified paleo diet that removes a lot of different foods. So it is quite restrictive, but a big part of the autoimmune protocol is focusing on very nutrient dense foods because we know that the immune system is quite nutrient intensive. So I do like using some of the recipes in here just because even though it is quite restrictive in terms of the foods that you can eat, the recipes focus on really nutrient dense foods, right? And that's something that I talk about a lot on this channel, is just trying to get as many nutrients in you as possible. Definitely something that I would recommend even if you're not on the AIP diet, but if you are, like, this is also a really great resource as well. And another reason I really like this book is because in the front part has a lot of non-recipe resources. So it talks about the different vitamins and minerals that are really important for the immune system and just for optimal health in general. It talks about interactions between nutrients. So, you know, a really common one is that calcium decreases the absorption of iron. It has really high sources of different ones, especially some of the ones that are a little bit harder for people to get, things like choline, zinc, a lot of the B vitamins that we just don't tend to eat as much of in kind of the Western diet. So yeah, that is another one that I would really recommend. I do have a patient coming in a few minutes, so I have to go. And then after I came back from work, I knew that I wanted to go to the gym, and what I've been trying to do is just come home, change into my gym clothes right away and leave, because I know if I let myself sit down on my couch, I will end up doom scrolling for 30 minutes and then I just won't go to the gym. So I try and mobilize myself as soon as I get home, and then I just did a quick 40-minute upper body workout, came home, had a shower, and then made up a big salad for lunch. And just before I had my salad, I mixed some apple cider vinegar and water. I've talked about this in other videos, but the acetic acid in apple cider vinegar helps to slow the digestion of carbohydrates within our meals, along with fiber and protein. And when we have that slower digestion and absorption of carbohydrates, we prevent those big spikes and subsequent crashes with our blood sugar. And I get asked by patients, is having sugar in the blood a bad thing? And it's not a bad thing. We just want the sugar in our blood to be pretty well controlled. And like I always say, having things like protein, fiber, fat in your meals can all help keep those spikes minimal. So you guys have seen me make this salad so many times, but I always start with a big base of greens. Here I'm doing chicken for my protein. I added some leftover sweet potato, opened up a can of beans. I also added an avocado, some sauerkraut, and then for dressing, I will always do olive oil and balsamic vinegar. I'll usually add some parsley, salt, maybe a little bit of pepper, and I just love this lunch. I could eat it every day, and I basically do.
Recognition that health as defined by governments is not necessarily health. The absence of disease is not health. Health is defined by a narrow set of reference ranges that has played out in the medical literature time and time again. We're looking at the reference ranges on blood work. It's looking at the average of the people in the blood in the lab. Cannot look at those reference ranges and be like, perfect, health, and go from there. And our patients are waking up to that fact more than I've ever seen before. But there's so much that can come up here, right? We can see oxidative stress, we can see kidney issues, we can see the results of menstrual cycles, right? So we're looking at, okay, what's going on from a mold perspective, what's going on from a gut perspective, what's going on from a parasitic perspective, what is happening from a histamine perspective.
So for dinner, I just walked over to the butcher shop, picked up some ground beef, made up some of my leftover veggies, rice and beans, and had the ground beef. It was a very simple dinner, which I love. I also always get asked where I got my pans from. They're from Extrema, but I unfortunately broke the larger one, so I will give you guys an update if I'm able to get that one replaced. Of course, I just had a date and peanut butter for dessert, and then I thought I'd show a few clips of Wednesday morning. So Wednesday morning was a little bit more of a dreary, rainy day. For my walk, I just ended up walking on the treadmill in my gym because I couldn't really walk outside. Ideally, I like to get my steps in outside, but when I can't in the winter or if it's really raining out, I'll just usually do them on the treadmill. And then I just did some gentle stretching. But that does bring us to the end of the video. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you got some value out of it. Please let me know in the comments if you like these, if you just like the cooking content, what you guys want to see more of. I've been getting a lot of requests to do a video on stress, so I promise that that one is coming soon. As always, I am here to support you guys on your health journey, whatever that looks like for you, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!